all for joining us for the third session of the Women and Minorities in Business series. My name is Billy Roberts with Locust. We're formerly Virginia Community Capital. We are a community development financial institution providing lending, investing, and community innovation services. If you haven't received information on our new name and would like some more information, please let me know. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions directly or send you some details after this session. We are delighted to have you join us for this empowering 10-week journey dedicated to fostering success and inclusivity. The series is designed to provide women and minority business leaders with the essential skills and strategies needed to excel in today's ever-evolving work environment. Today's session will be recorded for training and educational purposes. And to keep the webinar flowing, please use the chat box at the bottom. And we do want to hear from you. We think that discussion and questions are extremely valuable to these series. So please put them there and we'll either stop throughout the session or answer those at the end. Now, without further ado, please allow me to introduce one of our remarkable speakers who will be sharing their insights with us during the series. Please meet Charese Chambers. Charese is your small business CFO strategist and assistant director with the SBDC in the Capital Region in Richmond. She draws upon more than 17 years in the field of tax preparation that lays the foundation for guidance and bookkeeping to help new entrepreneurs create long-term sustainability and accountability with their business finances. Over her career, she has had the opportunity to speak to multiple industries about how to set budgets, create service, product pricing, and tax education for small business owners. As a QuickBooks professional, she helps small business owners know their numbers in a way that makes sense. She has a weekly podcast giving information to small business owners from startup and beyond. The title is Business After Dark Podcast and stands on all platforms. So check it out. Take it away, Charese.
Capacity in what I
Awesome.
do. So I love that for me. So, as Billy says, my name is Charese Chambers. I am the owner of Financial Fancy. That's what my business is called. But I also do work with the Small Business Development Center as the assistant director. Today, I am in Financial Fancy capacity. So, we're going to talk about all the things business so I can really pull the veil for you about what how did I transition? How to actually have that conversation because we're going into black and people have all the questions and at some point capacity and even now so you are in the right place if you want to have a conversation today about mindset shifting, building a foundation, and actually making measurable success. And it's not always monetary. That's the most thing I want to come away from is that you guys have a tangible way how to assess if you're actually thriving. I think a lot of people actually are on the tinge of thriving in their business, but they think it's a money amount, and really it's the peace that you have from doing the thing that you desire to do. So today you're going to get all of these slides, and then you're going to actually get a little toolbox kit of all my favorite links that I use. Most of them are free 99. So if you are in a place where you're like, you know what, I don't have the reason why I'm not thriving is because I actually don't have, I use Excel spreadsheets to keep track of all my bookkeeping. That might be a reason to cause you anxiety or stress. So I want to make sure that you also have the tools to be able to thrive in your business. Also, we're going to come away today, most definitely with tangible actions so you can start implementing them today. Again, I've been in business for over 16 years and Lord, I've been to so many conferences and workshops and things of that nature. And I love the the ones that make me feel good, but I even like the ones better that give me tools so that I can take them along the way to implement in my own business. And lastly, I'm going to give you my contact information so you can stay connected. So, what does striving phases look like? Maybe you feel like you have a lack of resources. Well, Billy is most definitely put all of these this collaborative workshop together, giving you guys all the resources in one space. So one thing I want to encourage you guys to do is stay connected. Stay connected with BCC and all that they offer. They have so much information and that they want to pass along to you guys as small business owners. So tapping into those resources. Also, if you have like a local chamber of commerce, I think something I've didn't realize in the earlier parts of my entrepreneurship is being connected to the Economic Development Center, right? These are the people who actually make the rules around our ecosystem and how it functions, right? So if you live in a rural area, like a Botetourt, right? One of the ladies said that she lives in Roanoke. I am a Virginia stance, okay? I've lived in Yorktown, Hampton, Lynchburg, now in Richmond, but I've also visited multiple counties and locations throughout Virginia. So there's so many resources, even in the rural areas. Now, do you have to search for them a little bit? Perhaps, but they are to be tapped in. So don't make sure that you don't leave any of those on the table. Lack of funding. I think a lot of entrepreneurs come to us and they say, especially me as a bookkeeper, it's like, Charese, I need money. And sometimes for me, I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys. Something that's not talked about a lot and something I talked about on my podcast is how did I get started? I always ask clients, how do they get started? Well, I actually cashed out all of my 401k that I had accumulated over the last 8 years working with J. Crew. And after it was all done and said with in taxes, I think it was about $18,000. So it was enough money to sustain me, not only to start my business, but for a year. So the theory that I was trying to start or implement was to be able to do my business full time. Because I realized there was a part of me that couldn't take on any more new clients as I was in my 9 to 5. But I wasn't making enough money from my business to be able to leave my 9 to 5. So I was like, all right, I'm going to set aside at least enough money to be able to do this for a year independently. So maybe the thought process is your funding could be from gosh, you're not your 401 like me. Someone who's a product based or a service based business, I always tell them to think about when you are making your prices for your products and your services, that you should be having a return, like you should be making money. And one of the first things is not necessarily going out to get a loan, but the thought process is if your business is not sustaining itself, then you got to course correct that in the back end as well. So sometimes funding and the lack of it is an internal issue, not an external, where something that you think that you just need to get money from a bank or some kind of loan or a grant or something like that. Sometimes you got to make sure that you're fixing stuff within and making sure the business is sustainable by itself, and that takes a little bit of work as well. And then lastly, a striving phase is mindset. I'm not going to say things are all, all roses, I think the thought process is to have a clear understanding of what the goal is and also falling in love with the process. I read a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water, and the basis of the book is around falling in love with the day to day. Now, I'm not saying you can't be the next millionaire in your family if you don't get up at 5 a.m. every morning. But what I am saying is that result the word on the street is that people who do or habits of people who are millionaires are people who do get up at 5 a.m. So that's the thought process. So what does it mean to thrive? We talked about what it looks like to not, right? Quantifying what peace means to you. And just a little engagement today. What is something that will give you peace in your business that is not monetary, right? So I have a client who actually went back to a job part-time at Walmart, and they're still traveling the world, right? They take time off when they want to do things, and they run an Airbnb business. And sometimes people think that if it's an all or nothing, and life is more of a gray area, to be honest with you. So when we quantify what our peace looks like, maybe it does look like we still work our job and work our business. Maybe our peace, quantifying it, does look like us leaving our 9 to 5, right? Maybe quantifying our peace looks like being able to spend more time with our kids, right? So quantifying your peace actually helps give you that North Star to make sure that you're actually leaning towards the thriving side instead of the striving side. So again, it's not always a monetary thing. I know a lot of people use money as their anchor, but the reality situation is that you'll very quickly fall out of love with business if you're not making the money because listen, entrepreneurship Today I might not make no money. And then tomorrow I might make $10,000. And then all of a sudden my life has changed. You can't let your emotions gauge your happiness as well. Your feelings are not the best matrix to use if things are going well, right? We need to actually make a goal that quantifies if we're on the right trajectory of where we're going. And then having an end goal in mind always is a good thing. Um, so your end goal is, again, maybe your end goal is to make $1,000 every month in your business, right? But what are the steps to get to those things? The other part is sometimes we're our biggest obstacle. A lot of times I have clients who have no problem telling me how much money they want to make, but then when we start backtracking into it, so let's say you're an author and you want to sell $1,000 worth of books, and the books are $10, so that means you need to sell 100. So if you, and then when I break it down even smaller, right? 100 just for math divided by 4, let's say you need to sell 30, a little less than 35, 25, okay, 100, 25 each week, right? And now you can even break that up into every day, how many books you need to sell to get to the 1,000. And that's the part that most entrepreneurs miss, is that they're not keeping track if they're actually meeting their goal, even every day. And that might be a little obsessive, and that might create anxiety thinking of it that way. But the reality situation is that in order to meet your goals and be able to measure if you're actually hitting them or if you need to course correct, it's always tapping in and being aware of what's going on in your business too. So let's talk about our mindset. Shaping your approach to challenges, risk, and opportunities. It empowers you to think positively and embrace innovation and adapt to ever-changing business environments. Um, so I went to a conference in Nashville and we were talking about Gen Zers. They're about 18% of consumers right now. And again, I've been in business for 16 years. So I started my business, shoot, I think Instagram hadn't been, Facebook was like the only thing. Facebook was a thing. There was no Instagram currently at the time. Or it was fairly new. We most definitely didn't have TikTok, right? LinkedIn was a thing. So we're thinking about where do you need to be, and then creating that space for yourself. Now, I'm not saying you have to be on all the platforms, but what I am saying is thinking about who your target audience is and how do you speak to them? How do you show up? And thinking about innovative ways and how to doing the showing up. So if you don't, I'm not a dancer. Okay. You're not going to catch me on TikTok dancing. Okay. But something that I do bring is education. And that educational piece from my insights tells me that my audience likes when I remind them to file their taxes on time. My audience likes when I tell them, hey, you don't have me as your bookkeeper and you do it yourself. Let me show you this new tool and maybe it'll help you get out of those Excel spreadsheets and go into software, right? So always making sure that you're showing up with what's happening. Now, listen, I'm gonna be totally transparent with you. I wasn't all aboard with the AI stuff with the chat GPT. I'm a geriatric millennial, although your phone is a whole AI in itself. It does a lot of, listen, if you say, hey, Google or Alexa, we're already using AI information. The way I was thinking about, I said, this is probably how my parents think. They're like, this is going to take over the world. This is going to take over my mind. They're going to take my identity. That's where I was at with the AI. But actually, I took a class about Chat GPT. I've been using it every day ever since, right? Again, adapting to the changing environment. Now, I understand the thought process. If it's not broke, don't try to fix it. Theology. And let's just see what it would look like to tap into something new. So consider maybe today you hadn't really thought about going into Chat GPT or doing something a different way. But it might be the very thing that's holding you from that thriving piece in your business, right? One thing I most definitely learned, and how I reached my first 6 figures in business too, is automations. I can't tell you how much time it saves me. Like, it also just brings me joy to wake up in the morning and see someone booked an appointment with me when I wake up. Like, someone like legit woke up and set an appointment at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now listen, up at 2 o'clock, but I'm accessible at all times because I have a website and it does the things that it's supposed to do. And I love that for me. Building a strong foundation. Again, we already talked about being connected with Billy with the VCC, but also being connected to, again, your Economic Development Center. And I love to call it, the theory of shaking hands and kissing babies, networking with people, right? And the importance of having a well-defined business plan and strategy. So the other part, and we've already talked about this, is what is the goal? And then what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators, to know that you're reaching the goal? Again, we'll take the book example. If every week the goal is 25 because you're trying to sell 100 to make 1,000, and you're selling 30 every week, then you also know that you're not only going to meet your goal, you're going to exceed the goal. And now, something I did a workshop on Monday about making Black Friday sales is, now, next month, you can go back and actually look at your insights and see what worked, what resonated with people. Why do people buy so many books? Maybe it was a trending real sound, or maybe it was just the way you delivered it. Now you can redo the same thing over and over again and maybe make little tweaks here and there. We're not reinventing the wheel. So make sure that you're not overcomplicating it, but also you need to make sure you have a clear step-by-step strategy and how you're going to get to all the goals that you have for your businesses. Being innovative and adaptable, we kind of already talked about how, TikTok and all the social medias have taken over, but really seeing the changes in your market. Something that happened for me during COVID is online. So I'd say about 65% of my clients were here in Virginia. Well, that number has switch swapped. About 75% of the clients that I service are outside the state of Virginia, because PPP and EDLI EIDL loans, I helped a lot of clients fill out those applications so that they could get the PPP money that was being issued out by the government for what happened with COVID. And in that, I signed on a lot of new clients who needed bookkeepers and things of that nature. So I'm so glad that instead of saying, you know what, I'm not going to help people do application loans, because it is something I had to think about, because there was a high demand of people who needed resources and help figuring out how to put their profit and loss sheets together and things of that nature. Like, again, they were using Excel spreadsheets, and now they're like, I need these forms. I don't have them. I don't even know how to make them. Actually, I don't even know what a profit and loss sheet is. And because I was like, you know what, let me help you. Let's figure it out. Take a pause for a second. Let me figure out what it needs to look like on the back end. And then I'm able to service more people and actually help them get the monies that they need. So thinking about a way that your clients need something, and maybe you're saying, like, maybe you don't offer delivery services. If you really gave a thought process and you're like, you know what? I could probably do delivery services just on Tuesday. Maybe I should offer that to clients. And now you could increase your sales by 25%, because now you're thinking of a new way to fill an order for clients. Something that happened with grocery stores, right? They adapted to what was happening. They offer pickups now. That was never an option. Well, I don't remember before COVID happened. And now saving moms, all kinds of stuff. Even what's this service, they drop off the food for you? I mean, you don't even have to go to the store. You can just order it and they'll Instacart and they'll bring it to you. I mean, it's changing lives. Something else that I had thought about too and started actually during COVID was I started doing a food service where they cooked the food for me and brought it to my house for the week. And I think a lot of times when we think of things, because again, I'm thinking of the full mapping, the whole picture. I started doing the food service, and someone's like, "Oh, you think you bougie?" First of all, I don't consider someone who talks to me like that as a friend. But then I said, "Well, it's actually cheaper." And they're like, "Okay, tell me more." For the time it takes me to make a grocery list, go to the grocery store, get said groceries, buy some additional items that I didn't need that was not on my list because we always go over budget, bring the groceries in, and have to cook and wash dishes after all of these things, it was cheaper for me to order food already prepared to my house when I did the math. Now, I'm only one person. Now, maybe it might not be feasible for someone who has kids, but you don't know that until you start doing the math. So don't feel discouraged if someone kind of says something to you that might make you feel discouraged. because you're like, oh, that might actually be, because again, our mind and our thoughts and our feelings have us thinking one way, but then I am a logistic person. When I put pen to paper and actually map out what it looks like, I'm like, oh, actually, I feel like it costs more money, but the real situation is it's actually less, and I'm not wasting more food that I can't eat because I'm again one person. It's kind of hard to cook for just one person. I also don't have leftovers, so now I'm not also throwing away that bag of salad that I keep saying that I'm going to that I'm going to eat that's in the refrigerator. So it's a win-win for everybody. Networking and collaborating. Your net worth is your network. I can't tell you how many times that I have been nominated or spoken of in rooms that I'm not present, and I appreciate that. I was reading a book, it doesn't come to my mind right quickly, but there's a thought process around, I think it's called the Muse, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, it has a theory about there are people who are your sponsors, you have mentors, and then you have collaborators. So, collaborators are more like people who are in your same industry or people you work with or other entrepreneurs, right? You guys just kind of talk together and come together. And then mentor actually is someone who takes their time to come sit with you. You tell them what you're thinking, they give you their input and things like that. And then sponsors are people who actually mention your name to people like above you, right? So I had a mentor, I'd say she was a sponsor. She's kind of both. It's a both and here. And she actually not I come to find out she nominated me for a young professional award when I lived in Lynchburg and I won. And it was internal, like they had a board, they voted, and I was nominated. And I didn't even know until after the award, right? So making sure that your reputation precedes itself and people are mentioning you. And thankfully, also in my business, I've never had to run an ad because I get so many referrals of people that I've done work with over the last 16 years who say you should talk to Charese. Even on Facebook, every now and then, on Facebook you say, "Hey, y'all, I'm looking for a bookkeeper. I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. I'm looking for a business coach." And hashtag financial fancy, hashtag financial fancy. And it just makes my heart so warm when I see that, like, oh, I love that for me. And I love that for you, that you think so highly of me to refer me to someone else because we've built that trust. All right, so we are at the end of this presentation. Again, my name is Charese Chambers. I'm a fractional CFO for small business owners. I'm basically a human calculator. That's how my mind works. I specialize in keeping businesses in compliance with the IRS and keeping up with their numbers and pivoting to make decisions for sustainability. Um, and you're asking, how can you keep in contact with me? You are going to get these slides again. I have an additional bonus for you guys with 75 plus tax write-offs for business owners. You can go ahead and download that. Of course, I'm asking you for your email because we want to stay in contact. I also send out a grant list once a month, so you're going to get all kinds of fun stuff. So it's just good to be on the bonus list. Today, and only today for you guys, I've never done this before. My whole resource library is free to you. You need to use the code THRIVE, and you'll have access to there's like at least 25 items in the library. The one in particular is this one in the middle. It's a journal I wrote. It's available if you don't like digital copies, you can purchase it on Amazon for $9.99. But again, I'm trying to give it to you for free, okay? You can use the code THRIVE for not only this book, The Next Level, but all of the items in the resource library today. And then, of course, my podcast, Business After Dark. She's almost 4 years old, and I drop every Sunday at noon. And I talk about things I've gone through entrepreneurship, and also things that I've learned and tools, resources, all of the things. We don't keep over here, and it's just crazy to hear the stories back of all the things I've learned over the last 16 years as an entrepreneur. Here's the QR codes. Anybody wants to take a picture. That middle one is to sign up for the email list, of course, the podcast, and then to follow me on Instagram. Post the same thing on Instagram as Facebook. So if whatever your preference is. And lastly, here's a link to all of my favorite resource links. So I'm signing up for Navi, which is a link kind of like Credit Karma, but for businesses. So you can figure out what your business credit score is. Also has other resource tools. It's free. A click link to Wave. Wave is a free bookkeeping app. Again, it's also more you I like QuickBooks. I ain't gonna hold you. I like QuickBooks, but QuickBooks is really good for people who don't know bookkeeping principles. Again, most bookkeeping software is only as good as you know bookkeeping. So, but Wave kind of takes away that little element of it. It's very easy. It also does projections for you. So again, if you're looking to get a loan with VCC with Billy, then it's going to do the heavy lifting for you. Let's throw away the Excel spreadsheets going into 2024. Let's just throw them away, okay? Um, Dun and Bradstreet, and again, it's a plethora links that you can utilize, and I use all of them so I can really speak to them. So I appreciate that. If
Hey,
anyone
Charisse,
hasn't, yes.
it looks like Heather asked if you could back up back
All
up to
right.
that one slide with the QR codes. Yep, yep.
All right.
She's trying to grab them real quick.
All right.
Lady, does anybody have any question that's on the that's in the call? Any of the participants? I mean, the really, really valuable resources here. Charisse, great. Thank you for sharing and getting them
Yeah.
on there. I am curious, like when you were starting your business or even throughout, like what's been one of the biggest obstacles you think that you've overcome and what did you learn from it?
Probably the automation piece.
Okay.
Funnels really like actually sitting down and mapping out what something needs to look like. Like I think most
Mhm.
entrepreneurs have the width for all to be like, I want this. I don't think that entrepreneurs suffer the big picture. It's the tiny bits. So maybe that looks like you hiring an assistant. Maybe that looks, but you need to also know what it needs to look like. So the day I do a brain dump, and I'm
I
like,
do
okay,
brain dumps too.
yeah,
I
I
do
do
brain
brain
dumps.
dump.
Yeah.
So I just updated my website, and I'm like, all right, these are the first thing is like, what do I want people to have access to on this website? We're gonna have a blog. I want them to be able to access the resource library. I want them to be able to access the podcast. And then I need to have what I find is, and then the customer service element for me is very important because some people are like, what's a fractional CFO? Because I didn't want to say I was a bookkeeper. I didn't want to say that I'm a tax professional because I do both. And
Right.
because there's not a lot of people that don't do both either. And I was like, all right, a fractional CFO sounds bad. So I actually have a Q&A section on the website. So people have the questions like, what should I expect? How long are we going to work together? How much does it cost? All these other questions that I've gotten over the years to really help. And that also helps the back and forth. One of the first, I think I fell in love with the automation. I use Setmore as my calendar link for the
Okay.
business because I had an email back and forth with a young lady and she was like, yeah, I would love to meet and do a one-on-one. I said, great. And then what happened was we had this 23 email thread of this
Right.
is when I'm available. This is when you're available. This is when I'm available. And then me making exceptions. And I did that a lot in my earlier years where I'd made an exceptions and it never fared in my favor, where I like moved something on my calendar or didn't eat lunch because I met somebody at 12 or, all these other things. Being sure about what you offer and what you have. And I'm not saying like you're trying to be difficult, but at some point too, sometimes no's got to be no. Like the client also
Yes.
needs to do some kind of heavy lifting and you got to figure that out. Like lowering my prices, all the things. Just
Well, and I
stand
think
true
that's
to
a
what
good
you
point
offer.
too. A lot of the entrepreneurs I know, one of the biggest conversations we have is do not underprice yourself or undervalue yourself at the beginning because it's almost impossible to get up there, right?
Right.
So maybe you can talk about that. How were you sure, or have you changed your pricing? How did that work for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was charging $15 an hour. You think 2006? I mean, I was
Yeah.
making like $12 an hour on my job. But the other part is when you start doing the $15, 15 point, let's just run off to 20%, and that's going to go to the IRS. So
Yep.
now you're
Yep.
like, and then the other part a lot of people don't conceptualize is you're just talking about how much it costs to sustain the business, not yourself. So
Yep.
when I went full time, something I didn't actually curate was I had made enough money to the business to pay its bills, the QuickBooks I was using and website domains and all this other stuff. But then I needed to put myself on payroll. So whatever I was bringing in, I needed to double that, whatever number that you're going to pick. So now Instead of the business needing to make maybe $15,000, the business needs to make more like $60,000 so then it can pay you a wage. So that's the things that we need to consider. And that's the part of that mapping out. I read a book by Rachel Rogers, We Should All Be Millionaires, and something I continue to do and update my, I'm actually updating my vision board as we speak going into 2024 is what is it that I want? And one of those things years before was that food service. I was like, man, I'm getting sick of cooking. I mean, I love cooking, but I was just like, I can't
Yeah.
do it. What does it look like for the business to make enough money to sustain this thing that I want? Next year, I'm gonna be transparent with y'all. Housekeeper, come once a month. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't do a whole bunch. Just do a deep clean once a month, and I can keep up with this. Again, it's only me. But somehow I have clothes that I washed last week on my couch right now as we speak, and I'm looking at them in the living room. And I'm like, man, if
Yeah.
I just have it's just time I don't want and also things that I hate to do takes me way longer. So it'll take me like a whole hour, then it should just take me 30 minutes to put the things away. But and then when you quantify your time, right? Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you're worth $150 an hour, I could make $500 in an hour doing someone's bookkeeping or taxes than me folding up clothes. Now that I've quantified, like we were talking about earlier, now it makes sense for me to hire somebody else to do said thing.
That's right. That's
So you're
right.
not
And
actually losing the money, you're actually making more money.
yeah, it's hard. Again, I think it's that mindset shift. Heather,
Mhm.
did you have a question you wanted to ask or anything? I just saw your camera come on. Not to put you on the spot.
I was just gonna say, I just love Charese, and this was amazing.
Yeah.
And I apologize for signing in late, but this has been so good. It's
No,
like
no, no. I'll send it out.
copiously take notes.
Yeah. Does anybody else want to come on and say anything or ask a question? Because I have a question. I'm going to be selfish if nobody else does. Um, Charisse, there is all this conflicting information that I find online about S Corp versus just doing your Schedule C and LLC and blah 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 blah. What's your recommendation? How do you see it, or when do you make that switch? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So for me, I would say businesses need to do a stress test. So the first thing is, I would say until your business is profiting, not making, profiting after all of your deductions, because that's another word people run around like, oh, I just told you I make six figures. If you listen to the podcast, I went actually line by line of how much money I spent. At the end of the year, I end up profiting 17,000. Now that's a
Okay.
whole different conversation, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So until your business is profiting about 50 to 60,000, I'd even care to say even 75 would be an idea to then put yourself on payroll. Because again, the business
Okay.
has to sustain ongoing paying taxes because I think we confuse scaling and evolving. Scaling your business, you can evolve when you get new information. Like I told you guys about ChatGPT, if this is your first time hearing it, or you're like, okay, this is a new thing. But scaling looks very different because that means that your business is already stable. And a
Yeah.
lot of times people are trying to scale and they're not stable. And that's a scary place to be. There's a difference between needing to hire a new person and having the money to do it because everything is working and you're like, okay, I have more work, I have a wait list, things that indicate like there is a space for this new thing that you're doing. It scares me when clients are like, oh yes, I'm starting a new business and I want to hire, like, you're doing all the things all simultaneously. Like that's a lot. But one thing I did when I realized that my business was stable was I started paying myself $100 every week. Simply doing you can do a reoccurring transfer from your business PayPal to your personal. So I was just doing withdrawals, owner draws. Okay. Then about after a quarter, because again, we have to stabilize this. So this is not, we're not rolling into things very quickly. After I realized the business was still able to pay her bills and pay me $100, I moved it up to $500 every other week. Okay.
Okay.
So now she went from 400 to paying me $1,000. And then the next thing was I had an extra $1,500. I was like, okay, she can sustain herself. And that's when I put myself on payroll. Also,
Nice.
after I went back and noticed that I had the increase from the overage, because the other part is it's going to lower your taxable liability, but the other part is there's other responsibilities when you do an S corp that you have to file to the IRS and to the state and the unemployment department that we don't talk about. Yes, it's going to lower your taxable liability, but there's more work that needs to happen on the back end. And if you're not
Hmm.
aware of that, you could find yourself getting tax bills of things that you didn't know that you didn't file. That's why it's probably important to have a conversation with a tax professional, or use Wave or QuickBooks or Gusto to do your payroll. You could pay them and they guarantee to file all of those things for you too.
That's great information. And it's really nice to have a straightforward answer, because it really, I mean, no wonder people are confused,
Yep.
because it really, I mean, that was so simple. Like, yes, absolutely. And then just even understanding, like, because everybody thinks, well, if you're a small business owner, you can write off everything, like write it off. That is not true. That is
It's
not
not
true.
true. Not
And
true.
um, so I think it would be nice if we could just get rid of all the noise and only have the
Yes.
Chareses in the world talk to us when it comes to that stuff.
Listen, and there's very far people. Yes, I think me and my friends always have the conversation about the gatekeeping part, and I'm like,
Yes.
I'm telling everybody. I did a
Yeah.
workshop, like I said, on Monday, and I was telling people I just learned about ManyChat, ManyChat. I tested it out. Listen, I always test it out before I tell people, because I'm like, it got to be user friendly.
Okay.
So basically, if you've noticed the trend on social media, people will say in the comments, comment taxes, comment link, comment fill in the
Yes.
word. And what
Yes.
happens is when the person comments, the automation automatically sends them whatever you want to send them on the back end. So my first test was when
Oh,
the new podcast came out, and I was like, I put the blurb, the little snippet up, and I said, if you want to listen to the full conversation, comment the word podcast. And then what happens is the person comments podcast, and then on the back end, I send them the link directly to the full podcast link so that they can listen. Because the reality situation is I love y'all. Listen, what I'm realizing is that people are becoming more lazy.
oh yeah.
So if you
I,
don't
I
hand
am.
so
I just want to
so
click. Yeah.
right. So if you don't give them the clickable links and just hand it to them, they're
Yep.
not going to tap or read. The days of going to saying click the link in my bio are dead.
Yep.
The days
Quickly. And that
saying
was
click
quick.
my link in is, yeah, it's like, no. You
Don't
got to
you
give them the
think?
link,
Like,
put it in your story, put the link
yeah.
there. Don't have people be going to search. They're not going to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and I feel like it all happened really quickly. Like it went
Hmm.
from link in bio to this, and it's super, super fast. Like you
Right.
have to stay on top of it. And like Chat GPT, I don't know how you're using that for your business, but that's a whole thing, right? Too. And I think it's great. I think it's great that it's a time saver. It's just getting comfortable, understanding how to use it. And that's a whole thing. Do any of you guys utilize Chat GPT for anything, or any AI? You do, Heather? You want to talk about how you use it?
Sure. I have you started using it as a brainstorming tool
Okay.
as I want to write something, or I'm thinking I'm curious about this, and it's been amazing. A huge time saver of like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, or that's really, it gives me just enough information to move
Yep.
forward, or it's like, okay, I don't want to pursue that. That's going to take a lot of extra time that I don't have right now to do that. But it's been a great streamlining, and the efficiency, as Charisse was talking about, our time currency is huge and it's not finite.
All right.
That's been a great, and being comfortable with trying it. And it's like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is like, I don't know, but let's try it and see.
That's right. It's a big thing.
So if I
How about you,
can,
Nadine? Go ahead.
so I use it for a lot of different things, and I took a couple of classes online just to learn about it. I would be very interested to see what you took, Charisse, because I want to be your best friend after this thing. Um, so I heard it called it's the world's best intern. So you
Mm.
give it information and it'll be able to, you have to tell it exactly what to do and it'll come
Yeah.
back. So I've used it for helping me generate ideas for blogs,
Mm-hmm.
giving me outlines, Actually, I typed in to give me KPIs for
Yeah.
my business, and I went in, and you can actually specifically say, like, give it all the information on your business and what you prioritize and how you want to speak. You can put all of that in before you even start like chatting with it. And so it already starts to know you by that time. And another thing, when I'm applying for grants, I put in the criteria that it's going to be graded by, and then
Uh-huh.
I put my answers into it to be graded according to that
That
criteria.
scale. Oh, that's so good. That's good stuff. Yeah, I will. It will actually make me charts and things to put into Excel too. Like if I want it to do a certain thing, that's fantastic, right? So yeah, I like it for that type of stuff.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I've been getting back on YouTube, and I use this other app called Caption AI. So basically what it does is you put the YouTube link that you've already created, and what it does is it spits out 5 videos that it believes will go viral for you. It
That's
gives you a
awesome.
caption, a description, and the hashtags. There's this other one I just found out about yesterday. It's called Zayi or something like that. Not only does it do all of those things, it also gives you timestamps to repost on your YouTube too. So I'm going to be utilizing those.
Nice.
Now that one costs money. The Caption AI don't cost nothing.
Right.
So what I'm gonna start once I get at least 10 YouTube videos, I'm gonna go back and use that tool, do the 7-day trial free. But I think the month cost is like $20. So I'm okay with that. So
I pay more for Hulu than you.
okay, wait, listen. So I'm gonna go back, do some of them, and I have noticed with the Caption AI that I've done so far, because something I've learned too is TikTok likes to see your face.
Hmm.
So I can't post what I post on Instagram there, which is fine. But I've also been using that magic stick on Canva, where it basically makes information you put in to blogs, all kinds of different stuff that I've been noticing. So I'm like, give me
Canva
all the
has some,
AI.
yeah, Canva has some really great things that and I don't think that I know that I don't, maybe that's an idea for another add-on to some of these sessions, like a Canva how to. So if you know anybody that's like really well versed in that, Charisse, let me know and
Yeah.
maybe we'll do that.
That's where I made my website. I paid someone for my website, and they put it on Squarespace, but I didn't know how to update things on it. And I
Hmm.
moved my whole website and updated it this year. It just went live October to Canva. And it's so much user friendly. Like when I first started my business, I was like, again, I understood the concept. Like I was in that in between stage, like I don't have enough money to pay somebody. But then I was like, I don't know how to learn that. I don't know any coding. I don't know this. This is not
Right.
my wheelhouse. I need someone else to do this. And but Canva, you basically add hyperlinks like you do an email. I mean, it's so easy.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Does anybody have any other comments or questions before we wrap up?
Seriously, this website is amazing. I'm not kidding. I want you to be my best friend now. It's been so informational. I am like mind blown right now.
Listen,
Oh,
I sat on that last quarter was when I mapped that all out, and I still have things I need
Woo.
to add to it, like the blog and the link for the podcast, but just very minor. But I needed to get it out there and get it going.
well, and you guys keep in mind, Charisse is doing this while also
Working a full-time
maintaining a
job.
full-time, I mean, there's somebody on here from the SBDC, right? Like, it's a big demand job. So being able to do all of that and focus and get things the way that you want them, I just commend you because it takes a lot of dedication and I think it comes across that you really love what you do, right? And that the thing, like that's the
I
thing.
do.
It's just
I
loving what
do.
you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
The automation, that's where it is. That's also when I switched over to my 6 figures, when I stopped trying to do all the things. I had to automate my life in a way that I also have a team. So I have a PR manager and an editor and a virtual assistant, and they do a lot of the heavy lifting.
How
So
did
yeah.
look, I'm never going to close this out. Charese, how does the virtual assistant, how's that work for you?
Love it. I've had Angela for 3 years. I've had three virtual assistants. Um, and basically, again, I make her SOPs. She
Okay,
does what needs to do. So she schedules all social media. She makes all flyers, content kind of situations. And then anything extra I need. So she also uploaded all my journals on Amazon.
cool.
And she
Did
does,
you
yes.
find her through a website or?
No, actually, she was an SBDC client when I was in Lynchburg.
Cool. Yeah.
She was just asking me advice for her
Networking. Yeah.
for her
Yeah.
business, and I was like, you know what? You sound like a good idea. So yeah, so I ended up hiring her.
Awesome.
I like to keep it small. Yeah, I know overseas could cost a little bit less, but I like if you know me too, I'm a small business stance. I want to work. I will never. This is recorded, so you'll this will be posted on YouTube. I will never. I don't care if it's a penny. I would or free. I would never not. If I can use a small business, I'm going to.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
looks like Nadine's asked for your email, Charisse, in the chat. If you want to, can you throw that in there and I'll close everybody
Oh,
out real quick. So thank you guys. I really do enjoy you all being here. We're going to send out all of the slides and all the information for you guys. Charisse, really appreciate you
yeah. Thanks for
offering all
having
of
me.
these great resources to the participants here. And you guys remember, both Charisse and I are here to support you on your path of to success. So you can contact us anytime. We're just an email or a call away. Um,
Yes.
Again, incredibly grateful for your time and wisdom today, Charisse. Let's see. I'll send out the slides and I'll also send you the link. I'm a little behind on those where we've changed everything from VCC to Locus. I've had to change some things inside my emails. So it's just as soon as I get all of those things switched over, I'm going to catch you guys up on the whole last 3 sessions. So you'll have all of that information. And then next week, our session is on Tuesday. So thanks for keeping up with us as we're moving some things around. We had to move this one to Thursday because of the retreat. But next week it's on Tuesday, October 17th. We'll be discussing the importance of effective communication and assertiveness in the workplace. And we'll provide some strategies for improving communication and assertiveness skills. And Melanie Perotti-Lawrence, who is the president of actually, I think she's the vice president of Lawrence Brothers, Inc., which is a manufacturer here in Southwest Virginia, will be presenting for us and taking and discussing that with us. All right, guys. Thank you. And we'll see you next time. Stay connected.
Thank you so much.